to Sew, a podcast about sewing machines, sewing history, and sewing culture in the past and present. I am your producer and co-host Aradia, daughter of your main host, T.R. Kelly, who is here today to talk to you about the swing needle, also known as the zig-zag. We're going to talk about its inventor, how it was introduced to customers, and why the first domestic rollout failed, but the second one didn't. This episode is another deep dive into a couple of Singer sewing machines in all their finely engineered complexity across several decades of U.S. history. Specifically, how the innovation from a basic straight stitch to a variable zigzag stitch was accomplished, and all the little quirks of how those machines live and sew today. Because, of course, they're still sewing, they're old Singers. This was a topic that I was very excited about because I love my Kenmore's zigzag options, to the point that I had to be told that they are not intended to replace straight stitching for construction seams. They just look so cool. I wanted to use them, but no, the straight stitch has its place. There's no improving on what works perfectly already. All you can do is add to the toolkit. So, without further ado, please enjoy the tale of the Singer Swingers.
Here we are. It's a beautiful sunny day in Western Oregon, and I am still in my RV, my little recording booth all set up here. I've got my 301 project in pieces behind me here on the table. I'm going to talk about sewing machines today. We talked about the 301 here recently, before Kenmore. I think we did the 301. So we're going to pick up with the next machine in Singer's line. What was their next big innovation? And we'll have to have a little history along behind this, but I'll tell you what it is first, just in case you know. When we were looking at the 301, there was an ad that popped up, and it says, now you have your choice of 3 kinds of Singers: straight needle, slant needle, swing needle. What the heck is swing needle? Swing needle was Singer's, not just Singer's, everybody's first name for zigzag. The needle swings.
Okay, so it's not like wife swapping kind of swinging.
Jesus. Hi, want to come over and sew? Ooh.
You can use a different needle. Ooh.
We have a full rotary. What is the swing needle? Well, okay, let's tell you what the Singer swing needle machines were. Model 206, 306, and 319. Usually said 319. There was also a 320. It's very special, very rare. I would love to have one. I've never even seen one. Why? Well, zigzag. What is zigzag? Especially if you're not a sewer. You're like, okay, that's a good Scrabble word.
Like, we're all familiar with the shape, the lightning bolt back and forth zigzag shape.
Right.
We all know that. We've all scratched it out in the sand. I think that's actually one of the oldest pieces of human art is like zigzags and hash marks.
Oh.
Pretty old design. We all are familiar with the concept of a zigzag, but in the context of a sewing machine, what does zigzag mean? I assume it means regular back and forth, even length stitches, not jaggedy like a lightning bolt, but like even and pace.
Yeah, you got a basic idea. So everybody knows what zigzag is, back and forth. Well, picture your sewing machine. You've got your needle that's going up and down, going through a little tiny hole. There's no back and forth there because there's a little tiny hole. The needle would break if it went back and forth. However, I did not know this. The zigzag concept for a sewing machine was invented by Helen Blanchard, a woman.
Interesting.
Blanchard is known as the inventor of the zigzag stitch for sewing machine, which she patented in 1873. Blanchard continued to make incremental improvements in both sewing machines and needles, and in 1881 she established the Blanchard Overseam Company. Overseaming is another word for zigzag, because if you have the needle swing over the side of the fabric, it seals up that raw edge. So that was like, oh my gosh, now no fraying. We can stitch a straight stitch, and then we can stitch a zigzag right next to it, and we've got a very sturdy seam. Although most of Helen Blanchard's patents related to sewing, she also invented several other things, including a mechanical pencil sharpener.
Very cool. I'm looking at a picture of her. I just Googled her, and there's one picture that's reproduced over and over again because, she's from the era of not cheap photography.
Right.
But she looks like a very strong, determined, and intelligent woman. There is a directness in that face that is just like, oh yeah, her brain's running overtime all the time.
Well, if you're familiar with the United States at all, and I say that Helen's from Maine, you know right away what kind of temperament. Steely, strong, smart, tough, probably likes lobster.
Okay, yeah, that is a very strong personality coming through this picture.
Yeah, so she invented the zigzag, the side-to-side needle movement. Now, what has to happen for that is a whole lot of mechanical things underneath, and plus, the needle bar has to be made to swing back and forth somehow. Now, if you look at different manufacturers' interpretations of how to do that, there's a lot of different linkages and things that you can do, different pivot points and how you can make the needle move. But this is a lot more complication than our basic straight stitch machines we've been looking at up to this point. These were the earliest zigzag models that Singer offered in the late 1930s. What else? I'd never heard of it being that early. The 206. The 206. Now, if you look at it, it's curvy, it's black, it's got gold decals, but there's a bunch of other stuff on the front. What is this? The first ones were copied, I am told, from a FAF mechanism. And if you look inside this machine, it's got the same cleated fabric timing belt that a FAF does. It's a high-speed vertical rotary hook. As we've learned about rotaries are the fastest machine. Very smooth. The 206 is not as commonly encountered as the 306, as it would seem that they had lower production numbers, because Singer moved to producing the 306, which is, this is another Singer trick, the same mechanically, but has cam capability and has a much more modern-looking casting. So it has, if you look at the 206, it's got that forward bulldog stance. Singer's starting to experiment with that look. Now, this is not part of the slant shank system. They haven't invented that yet. Remember, that came a bit later.
Right, where it's tilted back, 9 degrees, if I'm recalling correctly?
9 degrees. Mm-hmm.
So this is different than that.
But the machine isn't a slant needle, but it's starting to have the forward stance thing that we'll see later in the Slant-O-Matic, where they combine slant needle with the bulldog stance to get the Rocketeer.
Right.
So we can see the beginnings of that design line here in the 306. And it is in black. It does a zigzag. Now, again, what you got to sell this thing. You've invented it. Well, people were already understanding about zigzags because they were around in industrial stuff because Helen invented it.
Right.
Helen Blanchard invented that zigzag, and it was pretty much just only in use in industrial stuff. But if you looked at sewn items, you would see that and go, whoa, why can't my sewing machine do that? Can I get a machine at home that'll do that?
Right. If it's becoming industry standard, this means that lots of people are exposed to the concept and maybe would like to have that for themselves. Yeah. It's like, oh, this would be useful. So they already see a use for it. It's selling itself ahead of time.
Exactly. Remember, you don't sell machinery, you sell benefits. You sell ease. You sell convenience. I don't care that it's got a vertical axis rotary hook. What does a stitch look like?
Right. I can make that industrial, professional, strong-looking seam at home. That's what I want to buy.
Right. So now we come to, okay, this is all sounding great, but, okay, remember how when we talked about the 301, we talked about the slant shank system, and it was a Singer exclusive. Nobody else has it. That means it's proprietary. Only we have it. Okay, so even before that, they're doing the same thing with this set of machines. The 206 and the 306 is where we're at now. Was unusual because they used different needles. And they're the only ones that do use this particular size of needle.
So if you want this fancy, awesome, cool thing, you're going to have to buy into a whole new needle set.
Right. And this also explains why there aren't many of these machines around in working order today. Because if you put the wrong needle in, which is your standard sewing machine needle, you're going to ruin the bobbin case.
Oh.
Because it hits.
Right, right.
Okay, so this type of needle is a 206 by 13 is its name. And if you sit it up next to a regular 15 by 1 average sewing machine needle, you'll see that the distance from the eye to the point is very short on this needle, on this new needle. Like a 1/16 of an inch, which in sewing machines is huge.
Yeah, that's, ooh.
If you use that longer regular needle, it's going to hit the bobbin case, right? Well, okay, but they're selling this zigzag. People are like, okay, of course I'm going to have to buy special needles for it. It's a new kind of machine. Like the customers are like, okay, I can do that. It also used an entirely different type of bobbin. Again, it's the only... You can't buy a 206 bobbin at Joann Fabric. Oops, they're out of business. Wherever you get sewing machine stuff. There's a few specialty vintage sewing machine places where you can get these, unless there's a hack I'm going to tell you later. Okay, the stupid thing about this machine, think of your machine. It has a throat plate and a slide plate. You slide the slide plate open and reach down and take out the bobbin case, right? This one is one piece. You can't get...
Excuse me?
One piece of metal.
What?
How do you get to the bobbin case?
Yeah.
You have to tip the machine back to get to the bobbin. If it slams forward on your fingers while you got your hand down.
Yeah, I'm not sure I love that design choice.
It's not a good design. Now, in a cabinet, it can be okay because you can reach under with your left hand.
Sure.
In a portable, when you tip that head back, the base of the case goes with it.
No. Right. Yeah. Awkward.
It's a
strange
finger
choice.
slammer. Now, one good thing about that is the 206 and the 306 are, I believe, is it 206? Here we go. Later 206 models. Okay, so the first 206s were cast iron. Later 206, all 306, and all 319, which comes later, are aluminum.
Lighter.
So they're lighter. So it's going to slam down and maybe hurt your knuckle, but not sever your finger, like if it was a 101 or a 201 or something.
Sure. Yeah. A literal anvil smashing your hand.
So we've got the odd size needle and bobbin. We've got this falderall with the bobbin case. Oh, okay. Well, I still really want a zigzag, damn it. I'll put up with that. What the machines, and this is really cool. If you've ever, well, you have seen one. You probably don't remember it. I actually had a 319. Okay, so what's a 319 compared to a 206 and a 306, and why is it 19? Who knows? Singer just made up some weird model numbers.
They just have some weird, occult, mysterious taxonomy that only they know about.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, let's try the XB24. Yeah, that sounds good. You know, I like things that actually have model numbers that correspond to something. Anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like things to make sense, but whatever.
Sewing machines are not that appliance. Okay, so here comes the 319. What's different about it? It's green.
Ah, that makes sense.
And it's got these really cool little, looks like clarinet key things on the top that you can, little levers. They're so clever to push up and down to get the internal cams to change. So there's like, I think 5 built-in stitches. And then there's one extra one that you've engaged that one. Then you're engaging the little cam follower on the front of the machine. You click a little cam on there. And this is all exposed. You can watch all these levers and things moving around.
Oh, wow.
Some of us think that's really cool. I had one of these when you and Z were little, and you were both just like staring at it as it was doing its thing. Like, wow, you know, like only
I mean, yeah. As you're describing it, I'm like, I can envision this so perfectly. I have no particular memory of it, but like, as you're describing it, I'm like, that would be hours of entertainment for my little kid self. No problem.
Oh my God. I even wrote an essay for a Sewing Machine Collector magazine back then and mentioned that My children love watching the bizarre external mechanism of the 319. I'll have to find that somewhere. But it's that beautiful foamy green color that we know and love, that we know I know and love. .206 first. It was black. It was heavy. .306. Think it came in black and beige. I think they made that one in beige as well.
Yeah, I was glancing at the Google results for the looks between them. Yeah, and yes, the 3 series, they had the beige. They brought beige in.
That was like they were being edgy again there. Ooh, beige. Ooh. And that one also used external cams. And then the 319, which was the top of that line. And I think this whole line only lasted, I mean, the 206 came out really early, but it didn't go anywhere. It was a pain in the butt to use. Why buy that when you could get a 201? They were out at the same time. The 206 isn't even mentioned in the catalogs until the 50s when they really got it going. And then it was the whole swing needle. Oh, look at these. Look what you can do. You can put these little cams on and turn a couple dials, and now your needle is swinging from side to side and making not just a zigzag, but all these variations of zigzag. What does zigzag have? Okay, now you've got another parameter, because sewing, you've had forward and back. How many stitches per inch? Now you've got what is called the bight, and that's spelled B-I-G-H-T. That's the amount of side to side. So your length and your bight, you can combine to make a lot of different stitches. A short stitch length and a medium bight. Now you've got one side of a buttonhole. Mm-hmm. People figured out how to make buttonholes just with zigzag without hooking up anything, right? Just change the bight for the bar tack or the side legs up and back. You can do that. Okay, so Singer has brought out these 3 proprietary machines. This is the early 1950s. This is before the slant shank system. My thought is that they introduced these, they flopped bad, and then they came up with the whole slant shank system. Let's start a new proprietary thing that's not a finger smasher or, it's going to use the right needles and everything.
Wow.
So what about these machines? They're not common. There just weren't very many made. And if you look on eBay, 319s are selling for $300 and $400. But why has nobody ever heard of them? Well, because they're the things that I mentioned. Plus, a lot of people look at that cloth cleated timing belt in there and go, oh, that's going to fail. Well, it's the same thing that the FAF 130 uses and a lot of other high-speed rotaries. If you don't get it wet and you don't soak it with oil, it will last forever. Don't set it on fire, It isn't metal, but it is a proven good technology. Don't know if you can even get those if somebody has finally decided to make those available again. Again, that would be a repair that a trained technician would have to do, replacing that timing belt. Anyway, so there's a timing belt, there's a weird needle, there's a weird bobbin, and there's the finger smashing, have to tip the head back to change the bobbin. It's a low shank machine. It uses all the same low shank attachments. But here's another cool thing about that class of machines. The feed dogs are huge. They really pull the fabric evenly. They don't look like any of the other off-center, one toe longer than the other ones that Singer's been using up to this point. To me, that's one of Singer's really weak points all around was their feed dogs.
Yeah, they are kind of wimpy.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah. the feed should surround the needle, like White, Kenmore, those guys. Anyway, and the 319 and 306, 206, they have the great feed dogs. So there's a lot of good features. Now, let me tell you the hack that I just learned about for getting around the stupid bobbins and needles. Because, of course, there is one. Okay, now all you people are going to be snapping up these machines once I tell you this hack. The problem with the special needles is they're only available in 3 sizes and 1-point style. There's no leather needles. There's no Lycra needles. There's no ultrafine. So you want to be able to use all the modern needles. How do you do that? You replace the bobbin case with one from a Singer 20U, which is an industrial machine. Ooh, who thought of that? Now, You need a little, if you have a early 206, it'll just fit right in. But any of the 306 or 319, there's a small modification that needs to be made on the bobbin case. You have to cut a little hole in it for this guide pin. Okay, so a lot of you must have Dremel tools and hacksaws and jewelry stuff, or your brother-in-law or your sister or somebody has these little tiny tools. But anyway, you can modify a 20U bobbin case. I think maybe you can even buy a modified one online now to use regular needles. And guess what? The 20U type L bobbins are easily available. So if you just get out of the Singer 206, 306, 319 and do these mods to it. Now here's the other most ultimate cool thing you can do with this machine. You can put it in a treadle stand.
Oh, really?
It has an external motor, which means an external belt, which means a hand wheel with a groove in it. Now, if you take off that aluminum hand wheel and put a big, fat, heavy spoked wheel from a 66 on, stick it in a treadle, now you've got this power zigzag treadle. You cannot treadle fast enough for this machine. You just can't. It's built for high-speed electric operation, so treadle is going to give you no problem. But a lot of these have been turned into treadles with the hand wheel modification and the bobbin case modification because they're really good sewing machines. Once you get past, you still got to lift them up. And on a treadle, you can't lift it up with the belt attached. You're going to have to get under there and change that. A mod that I would try to be sawing that throat plate thing in half and trying to see if I could make some little hinge deal on it. I don't know if anybody's done that yet. So yeah, now I'm on the lookout for a 319. Mint green, typewriter keys on top. I want to put it in a treadle stand.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Now, if you get it electric, the motor is green. The cords are green. The foot controller is green. Everything's green. The little light.
Green.
Little light on the back is green. So yeah, 319, 306, 206. If you're farther along into your vintage sewing machine obsession, appreciation, tinkering phase, these are worthy targets. They are all ones that do have the model number listed right on them. Little tiny gold and black tag right under the stitch length thing on the pillar. I'm going to say 206, 206K, 306, 306K, 319K or W. I think that was made at the Wittenberg plant. So there's several letter prefixes because this machine, they made it at several plants. But man, 2 or 3 years and then it failed?
Yeah, so why did that fail, but then the slant needle didn't fail? What did they learn between this and that?
They learned not to make it too hard to use. Don't over-engineer stuff. Mrs. Customer wants a zigzag, but the learning curve on this thing's really steep. And also, Singer was up against, at this point, we're talking early 50s. Europe is being rebuilt with the Marshall Plan. Lots of sewing machine manufacturers are getting into business, and they're cranking out zigzags. Necchi in Italy. Elna came out with the first free arm zigzag in 1952. So Singer's got some very stiff competition here. Also, the Japanese by 1960 are dominating the market with their machines that we gave them Singer 15 plans for their recovery after World War II, and they took it and ran with it. That's why Japanese 50s and 60s machines are so awesome. They were really into it. But then Singer retreated. They sold these and they didn't make any more. They hopped on that slant shank system and really pushed it towards the schools, trying to make up for this debacle. Then they really got into zigzag. Their first really good zigzag was the 401A. It's a slant shank, so they've got that going.
Okay, so they're keeping that winning thing that they've added.
All of their top-of-the-line machines from now on out are going to be slant shank system. The lower-end ones will be. That's how they're going to separate these are the top-of-the-line singers from, these are the budget singers. Okay.
Okay.
The 401A came out in 1958, and it is still a highly valued machine. It's very complicated to operate. It's the precursor to the Rocketeer, which they're the same machine with different styling. 401A is two-tone cream and beige, but it still has a kind of a square, blocky 1940s look to it. So then they took those same guts and then, boom, the Slantomatic 500A. Everything's all slanted and tail finned. And I mean, how 1958 can you get? Two-tone touring machine, baby.
So they were able to introduce a complicated, hard-to-use zigzag eventually and have it actually work.
Yeah.
But it was less hard to use than their first attempt.
Yeah, and if the 401A was too complicated, you could buy a 403, which was just straight and zigzag without all the cams. Just straight and zigzag. 403 is also a very fine machine. All of these, now let me also say they've got another awesome Singer feature here, which is the top drop-in bobbin.
Yes, we do love that.
The 400 series, they went back to that. You know, they said, well, yeah, the 301, it still had its bobbin underneath. So the 401, we're combining the top drop-in bobbin, the slant shank system, and zigzag. Ooh.
That's starting to get some good bells and whistles now.
It's all metal. It's a direct drive vertical shaft motor, so no belts. Motor's inside. So think all these innovations are piling up now into this one machine. But this internal cam stack and these two levers that you can turn for literally almost infinite combinations of stitches, it was a little overwhelming. So they scaled back to the 403, which is if you want that same top drop-in bobbin, heavy-duty motor, 403 is your guy. Also, there was a 404, which is straight stitch only. It has all the styling, slant shank, but top drop-in bobbin. So if you don't like that underneath on the 301, plus the 404 is very stylish looking. It's got that more, just incrementally cooler looking. So we're getting toward the end of Singer's all-metal machines and to where they started to really break down, which is by 1960, the Japanese were dominating the zigzag market. So then Singer had to come up with some more proprietary stuff, which we'll get to when we get to the Touch and Sew series. Mm-hmm. But back to the 206, 306, and 319. These are, if you talk to sewing machine collector people, these are called the Singer Swingers, the swing needle machines. There's only 3 of them. They're underappreciated. They're finicky. They do have their strong points. They're wonderful for modifications. If you see one in a thrift store for $50 or under, my God, snag it. See if it turns, of course. Look at the underside. See if the underside turns. See if that belt is in there. You'll see it. It's like, oh, is the belt chewed up? Is the bobbin case there? If the bobbin case is destroyed, that's okay, because you're going to modify that anyway. I'll find a video on that for y'all. So anyway, yeah, I want a 319.
You've talked yourself into wanting it. That does sound really cool, though, because it has a bunch of, not top-of-the-line excellent things. It has top-of-the-line weirdness. This is some top-shelf weirdness, and that's different than top-shelf efficiency.
I've just been looking for a machine a zigzag machine to treadle, and this is the one that a lot of people, it's a very specialty. If you want to treadle a zigzag all metal old machine that's going to do all the stuff, this is a good candidate. So I want to try that.
There's not a lot of machines that can fit that bill, is what I'm hearing. It's a kind of rare Venn diagram intersection.
Sort of. I mean, you told me last week, 2 weeks ago, that you had a friend that sent you a picture of a 247. Now, that's a machine that can also be run in a treadle cabinet. In fact, that's why it's been sold for so long. I think it's still in the lineup even. It's the simplest zigzag that you can put in a treadle stand. But the 319, the swing needle series, you can put all those cams on, and there's 30 or 40 of them.
Oh,
so if you really want to do a lot of weird decorative stitching, make your own, quote, ethnic-looking borders on stuff with different threads and things, very cool.
Yeah, for the sake of our audience, I feel like we should take a moment to just explain cams, just for anyone who's not a sewer. It's a pattern. I don't know what cam means exactly, but it's a patterned stitch. It's not just a zigzag back and forth or a straight stitch. You can have cool, almost circles or flower designs, uneven things. And yeah, I like I like using them. They're really fun. You can use them in like opposite color, like really bright facing thread and have, like borders and stuff. Or like I've got one where it's like a straight line along one side with little like almost branches coming off of it.
Oh,
so it's very structural, but also very decorative, like at the same time. And my Kenmore has like, I think 12, or it's got like 6 cams and 2 patterns on each of the units or something like that. There's a couple of different ways I can combine knobs and dials to give me, I think, like 12 different patterns in addition to just your regular back and like straight stitch and straight ahead zigzag. I think there's also like there's a triple one where it's like just 3 straight stitches right next to each other. So it's just uber strong.
Mm-hmm. That's a straight stretch stitch. That will not break. That's for like so.
That's on my Kenmore. That's not on a Singer.
No. Yeah, that's your Kenmore is of the next class of machines, which is automatic, which means not only does the needle go up and down, swing side to side, but the feed dog can go forward and backward. So it's all timed. So that's how the stitches can...
Right, so they can do the back and forth stitching.
Right.
Yeah.
So stretch stitches, reverse cycle stitches. So swing needle came before that. And then we'll get to... Oh, it's so exciting. Cam, in mechanical speak, a cam is a round disc that has various cutouts on the side so that a finger or follower, as it goes around the cam, as it rotates, will move the needle or whatever the cam is attached to make a certain pan. So there's cams in pretty much any kind of engine. But your Kenmore has a cam stack, which is a built-in set. And when you turn the dial, the finger follower moves to whichever cam you've selected. And those are usually steel and all pinned together. What the Singer swing needles have, the 319 has a built-in cam stack with 5, but then there's all the external ones you can put on. And people have been actually printing these, 3D printing them, because they don't take a lot of stress.
Of course they have.
And these are the really simple flat ones that are easy to make. Other machines will have different shapes to fit their followers and stuff. But the idea of cam followers, that's a mechanical sewing machine. There's a finger following a little thing and it moves a needle. So that's why all these things move and you can see it. Nowadays, it's all done with computer step motors. Tick, 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 tick. There's none of that beautiful mechanical stuff inside. I'm going to wax rhapsodic about this.
And there you have it. Another deep, deep dive into some Singer sewing machines. This time, tracing the invention and adoption of the zigzag stitch. We learned about its inventor, Helen Blanchard, the disastrous rollout of the swing needle before it was rebranded to a zigzag, and how to make buttonholes from just the cam options. We also learned that you can put a zigzag into a treadle, despite that not being in the original design plan, how to modify modern bobbins to allow modern needles in these solid old machines, and that there is no logical naming scheme to Singer model numbers. As I said in the intro, I was interested to learn more about this utility of my main machine that basically seems like magic. It still seems like magic, if I'm being honest, but now it is magic I can almost comprehend. Engineering is cool like that. And I know I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. The way sewing machine names and colloquialisms go together reminds me of nothing so much as the naming schemes for rocks and minerals. Which, what even is the difference there? I could explain, there is a difference, but knowing the difference will barely help with keeping all of their different names organized. It's chaos out there. And that's why we need people with these deep, deep veins of knowledge to hold all of that information for the rest of us. Next week, we are going to pull back from the deep rabbit hole of machine history we've been down, and we'll return to fighting fast fashion with actionable steps for you to follow or ignore. We're not your mom. Well, technically, Tiara's my mom, but not yours. We've also had a recent influx of new listeners and Patreons. Welcome, welcome. We will be addressing you properly in the episode next week. As a reminder, we are unofficially sponsored by Stagecoach Road Vintage Sewing Machine, who do repairs and restorations. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and you can support us by sharing the podcast with your friends, and also with money, at patreon.com/used2sew. Thank you for listening to us here at Used to Sew. We always welcome your additions, corrections, and feedback in general. Please reach out to us via email at usedtosew@gmail.com.
Used to Sew is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.